What is up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. This is Dumak. There's a new mic on. Let me know how it sounds. We're stepping our game up this season. Today, what I'm going to be talking about is AI art and why it's not going anywhere. Despite what we feel as artists, there's no way AI art is going anywhere other than where it already is. I've spoken about AI art on other platforms, and I'm not sure if I've actually detailed what AI art is specifically here on YouTube. So, just to detail it, AI art is basically a generated image created by gathering other images in a data set and assigning those images to specific keywords. After assigning those specific images to keywords, the software is able to assemble a new image that comprises of the prompts that you gave it. Similar to how you would ask somebody to illustrate something based on a brief or prompt that you gave them. For example, you might ask the AI to draw a flying pig in a helicopter, and it will scour the data set that it has in order to create an image of this flying pig, and it will try and make sure that the flying pig image is distinct from the images that it already has in its data set. There's been a lot of controversy around the ethics of AI art and whether it's ethical or not. And depending on where you stand or what your profession is, you might have a different opinion. So, my opinion on the matter is I think that AI art was inevitable because automation is inevitable. However, I don't agree with the ethics. And what do I mean by that? I mean that the ethics used to gather these images are not ethical in nature, because nobody gave consent to have images added to the dataset. It's akin to stealing, especially when you can ask the AI art to draw in the style of the individual who is in the dataset. For example, you could ask the AI to draw Goku fighting Frieza in the style of Kubo Tite without Kubo Tite having asked to have his images be a part of the dataset. And there's also no compensation. There's also no way of telling whose images are part of the data set. So that means as an artist, you may have drawn something and your images are now part of a data set without you even knowing. So the ethics of it is kind of messy, but there's a fundamental issue in combating AI. And the fundamental issue is, what is art? What do you define art as? And if you have the answer for that, you find out that it's more complicated than what it seems. Because art is very difficult to define. So, to some people, art is the pursuit of a creative process. And it comprises of mostly two components: an idea and an output. Some people think that art is only drawing and painting, but it's more than that. It's drawing, painting, it's poems, it's writing books, it's creating illustrations, it's creating collages, which are like pieces of paper. It's a whole plethora of things that makes it difficult to define. And over time, what is considered art changes. So, with the advent of photography, when it became a thing, an art form, we consider art photography an art form now. But with the advent of that, it took away the jobs of many portrait artists. And after photography had become a thing, digital photography started to take over. And people who were used to older technology in the photography field saw it as an encroachment on their livelihood. Traditional artists have been painting for many years. Some artists, when paints became industrialized, felt that it took away from the art form. Eventually, we had people doing digital art, and it took away from the art form in the eyes of many traditional artists. And even within traditional art, there are several different art movements. There was Cubism, there was Expressionism, I think. There was pop art. There's Dadaism. There was a whole bunch of art movements, each one trying to do its best to leave a stamp and redefine what art was perceived as. But these movements don't represent the whole. And as I said, there's many forms of art as well. There are art forms that serve a functional basis, and there's art forms that are done for art's sake. For example, if you go and look at African masks, they served a cultural function within the society. And if you also look in some of these same communities, and some different as well, there's scarification, where people scar their bodies, some for aesthetic value and some for, traditional purposes, some for identification. So art is human expression at its core, and at the end of the day, it deals with having an idea and outputting it. Whatever the idea is and what purpose it serves is down to whoever is commissioning the art or doing the art. So here's another question I have. If you commission an artist to, let's say, make a deck of cards for you that you intend to sell commercially, is that art? And if you then, in the same fashion, instead of hire a human being to do that, and you commission a AI tool to do something similar, is that art? So in asking that question, all I say is that fundamentally it is the same thing. To argue against AI from a perspective of it not being human is to argue semantics. Why is that? Because when you start asking questions about whether or not it has emotion or this or that, what about the emotion of the prompt that's put in and the emotion of the person who looks at the art? Because at the end of the day, we are the ones who look at art, we look at the color, we look at texture, and it evokes an emotional response from the viewer, not from the artist. The artist has his opinions about the art, but they tend not to be the same as the person who views the art. When I create a comic book, how I feel about each panel is not the same way that the reader feels about each panel. So to argue semantics and say that art is only about human beings expressing their art forms, it's not that easy. It's not something you can just say definitively. So then the question then becomes, again, what is the issue? Fundamentally, the only issue with merit that we can levy against AI art is that AI art doesn't ethically take its samples to create the art that it generates. That's where the conversation is. And it's really the only conversation of merit when you think about it from an artistic perspective. Human endeavor is bound to change and will continue to change, just how it is. But at the end of the day, it's not about what advancements come, it's about the ethics behind them and what they do to the people they affect.